On this railway adventure, a playground of the rich and famous, crocodiles and Austrian glaciers on the Rhätische Bahn railway. Hi, I'm Bernie Coppell. Just up the tracks, a Benedictine monastery, a prehistoric landslide, and snow galleries. Join me from Disentis to St. Moritz on railway adventures across Europe. The Rhätische Bahn, or RHB railway, is an opportunity to explore both the peaks and valleys of Switzerland. Our point of departure is the Swiss city of Disentis in the canton of Graubünden and on to St. Moritz. Along the way, we'll see the Rhine River and the famous Parson ski run. We'll take an aerial cable car to 7,500 feet and cross the world's second largest masonry arch bridge. As we travel two separate routes on the RHB, we'll see incredible scenery and historic landmarks, while traveling a railway recognized around the world as an amazing engineering feat, a feat that includes over 100 bridges and nearly 10 miles of tunnels. All aboard for land of Alpine adventure.
Our railway adventure across Switzerland takes us on the Rhätische Bahn Railway, also known as the RHB. It's a major railroad that crosses the spectacular scenery throughout the canton or state of Graubünden in southeast Switzerland. We'll cover two different routes to the playground of the rich and famous, St. Moritz. The first will start in Disentis, travel northwest, then south through Philosur. The second will start in Chur, through Philosur to St. Moritz. Our first train pulls out of the Disentis station beneath the imposing Benedictine monastery. Established in the 7th century, the monastery was rebuilt in 1846 after the French sacked and burned the town in 1799. Sweeping down the valley of the border Rhine, the train heads for the historic city of True. It was here in 1424 that the oath of the Grey League, which united various civil and religious factions in the area, was sworn, giving the name Graubünden to the canton. Moving on to Alans, our train stops briefly. The town is situated at the Rhine River and was founded in the 8th century. It was once the capital of the Grey League, and today it's an important tourist and trade center. We leave Alans and head northeast to Chur, the capital of the canton, and have a chance to enjoy the spectacular natural features of the railway. At Flims, just past Alans, you can see the Rhine River has forced its way through a gigantic landslide which occurred in prehistoric times. Mother Nature's handiwork makes the train seem tiny in comparison. We pass Chur and head on to Landcourt. This is a true Swiss railway town, which not only serves as a major transfer point for passengers on their way to the resorts of Klosters and Davos, but it's also a major shopping district and the main depot area for the RHB railway. Older engines, including the strange-looking Crocodiles, are repaired here and can be seen racing across the countryside. The first leg of our route up the beautiful Landcourt River Valley is fairly easy for the engine. As we pass through Bruges, the rail line shares a gap between the mountains where road, rail and river all squeeze through together. On the way to Kublis, we pass a man mowing his fields of grass and wild plants. Locals use this hardy mixture to feed livestock. In the distance, the familiar sound of the road crossing signals the train's approach. From high above the valley in the district of Prattigau, the train looks like a toy as it approaches the town of Klostersdorf. This part of Switzerland is a main railway crossroads. Trains are constantly coming and going, carrying passengers and freight to local as well as far-off destinations throughout Europe. Just beyond the Austrian border in the distance, the glaciers of Silvretta glisten in the sunshine. Mist clings to the rooftops in Klostersdorf, which is a popular Swiss resort in the winter and summer months. One of the main attractions is the aerial cable car ride up to the 7,500-foot summit at Goetschnegrund for the impressive view of the Prattigau and Silvretta mountains. Returning to the station at Klostersdorf, we prepare to leave for Landcourt. Next up, totally tunnel vision for 10 miles when Railway Adventures returns. We're back on the Rhätische Bahn Railway in southeast Switzerland to St. Moritz. Leaving the resort area of Klostersdorf, we head over a remarkable concrete bridge built in 1930. Beyond the bridge is the entrance to the Virena Tunnel, which links the Prattigau to the Ober-Engadina, or the upper valley of the Inn or N River, which lies at 5,000 feet. Our train now leaves the Landcourt and zigzags up the valley to Schutzhausbach, where we pass a picturesque wooden station house at Cavadurli. Twisting and turning on our climb upwards, the tracks are precariously perched on steep slopes. On the way down the slopes, the train is constantly braking. Suddenly, the train comes out of the forest into open parkland, where you can see the lakes and streams that feed the headwaters of the Landwasser River. We're close to Davos, and this area is known worldwide for its ski slopes and the famous Parsen ski run. The temperatures are very pleasant here in the summer, and walking is easy in the crisp air at 5,000 feet above sea level. Passing through Davos, our train moves from broad valley meadows into a terrain full of tunnels, gorges, and bridges on the way to Frauenkirch. Before long, the valley begins to narrow, and the road, rail, and river all compete for space as the mountains close in. Our railroad begins to lose its sweeping curves, and we start to dive into a series of tunnels that give us only a brief glimpse of the surrounding terrain. There are 14 tunnels in this 6 1/4 mile stretch of track, but the most spectacular sight is the Wiesen Bridge. It's the highest bridge on the RHB railway, though not as famous as the nearby Landwasser Viaduct, which we'll cross later. The 180-foot center span carries the track 288 feet above the river. The Wiesen Bridge was opened in 1909 and is the second largest masonry arch bridge in the world. The largest is in Scotland. From here we descend to the junction at Philosur. Our other route to St. Moritz starts in Chur and travels through Philosur. This rail line is another example of the amazing Swiss engineering capabilities. Authorization to build the railway was granted in June of 1890, and the route was planned by Robert Moser, a Swiss who had been a longtime associate of the RHB. Fritz Hemmings, a German from Kiel with experience in Austria and on the Gotthard Railway, was the engineer for the project. The completed line boasts 108 bridges, totaling nearly 2 miles. Tunnels and avalanche galleries on this line make up over 10 miles of railway. The main junction of the RHB is at Chur, where trains of the Swiss Federal Railways transfer passengers to many other RHB lines. Pulling out of Chur, we head to Thusis. Thusis is at the end of the regional service from Chur and is also the boarding point for the trains that carry cars to Samedan and St. Moritz. In winter, the train is the only way to get a car over the Albula Mountains. There's also a large bus depot that provides service through the San Bernardino Pass to the many small villages in the outlying area. As the line swings southeast, we begin to climb through the valley of the Albula River towards Philosur. Our train has picked up 2 new panoramic glass enclosed cars for the trip. At Solus, the older arched railway bridge makes a sharp contrast with the modern concrete bridge for cars in the background. Over or through is the 10,000-foot question. The answer when Railway Adventures continues. Continuing our adventure on Switzerland's RHB Railway, we pass through Tiefencastle, which is about 25 miles from Chur. This easy terrain is just the calm before the storm. A train line to St. Moritz was at one time proposed through the Julier Pass, but today trains still cling to the high ledge on the left of the river as they leave town. The steep mountains continue to squeeze the tracks onto smaller and smaller ground. Switzerland's highly maintained railroads assure passengers of a smooth ride, even in the most rugged areas. About 3 miles of relatively easy going brings us to Sarava and the first glimpse of the 10,000-foot high mountains that block the way to the Engadina rising in the distance. Spire and peak form an impressive image of this alpine adventure. As we approach Philosur from Chur, we encounter one of the engineering marvels of the railroad, the Landwasser Viaduct or bridge. A northbound train emerges from the tunnel onto the viaduct, which is one of the most famous bridges in the world. Its 5 complete arches are each 65 feet across and rise to a maximum height of over 213 feet. The curved viaduct has a radius of nearly 394 feet and rises at a gradient of 1 in 50. The southern arch is remarkably anchored directly into the cliff face at the entrance to the Landwasser Tunnel. The foundation work was started in late March 1901 But work was suspended from November 1901 until April of 1902 due to the severe winter weather. The viaduct was completed on the 15th of October 1902. The enormous project these early engineers undertook is even more dramatic looking up from the river. On the other side of the Landwasser Tunnel, we continue through the forest into the Philosur station. The station stands high above the village with a commanding view of the Albula Pass. As we leave Philosur, we begin to climb almost immediately. The rail line passes through spiral tunnels, then onto a steep mountain slope. There are 14 tunnels and 8 viaducts or bridges along the relatively short run from Philosur to Bergen. This pleasant mountain village is well worth the trip. Stone buildings and flowers in every window provide a relaxing atmosphere from the hustle and bustle of big city life. The playground of the rich and famous St. Moritz, next on Railway Adventures. We're back on the RHB Railway in Switzerland. Just after leaving the Bergen station, our train zigzags through lush green meadows while constantly climbing back and forth on the steep gradients as we head towards ever-imposing mountain obstacles. The Albula line is always busy with plenty of passengers and freight traffic on the way to and from St. Moritz through the Bernina Pass to Italy. Gets heavy snowfalls in the winter, and the railway avoids mountain side cuttings whenever possible. The federal government has also provided a considerable amount of financial assistance with avalanche protection shelters, especially in the Tischbach area. Passengers can easily become turned around on this section of the track, and it is not uncommon to lose your sense of direction as the train crosses and recrosses itself. At Preda, which is 5,877 feet above sea level, the railway plunges into the 3.5 mile long Albula Tunnel with its highest point in the middle. The tunnel was completed in February of 1903 and cost over 7 million Swiss francs. At its highest point, the tunnel reaches nearly 6,000 feet above sea level, which makes it the highest of the principal Alpine tunnels. Trains once more burst into the sunshine at Spinas and begin the 2.5 mile descent to Bever on the plateau of the Engadina. Curving through Bever, we're now on the final leg of our adventure to St. Moritz. Many of the trains have their names in German on one side, and on the other, Romansch, an ancient language of Switzerland. Set beside a beautiful alpine lake, St. Moritz is a world-famous winter alpine playground for the rich and famous. With the mountains rising in the background and the lake at its side, it's no wonder St. Moritz is so popular.
The trip from Disentis to St. Moritz has taken us past spectacular peaks and through beautiful valleys. We hope you've enjoyed Land of Alpine Adventure. I'm Bernie Coppell. Join